It's now time for a devotional thought. This morning, it will be brought to us by Faith for Today.
In the year 1269, Kublai Khan sent a request from Peking to Rome for, quote, 100 wise men of the Christian religion. And so I shall be baptized, and when I shall be baptized, all my barren and great men will be baptized, and their subjects baptized. And so there will be more Christians here than there are in your parts. Now, the Mongols were then wavering in the choice of religion. It might have been, as Kublai forecast, the greatest mass religious movement the world has ever seen. The history of all Asia would have been changed. But what actually happened? The church answered by sending 2 Dominican friars. They got as far as Armenia, could endure the tough journey no longer, and returned home. So passed the greatest missionary opportunity in the history of the modern church. I'm so thankful that God is a God of second chances, because we definitely need them. Exodus 32 tells us of one such instance, when Moses came down the mountain with the 10 Commandments. It reads, "When Moses approached the camp and saw the calf and the dancing, his anger burned, and he threw the tablets out of his hands, breaking them to pieces at the foot of the mountain. And he took the calf the people had made and burned it in the fire. Then he ground it to powder, scattered it on the water, and made the Israelites drink it. He said to Aaron, 'What did these people do to you that you led them into such great sin?' 'Do not be angry, my lord,' Aaron answered. 'You know how prone these people are to evil. They said to me, "Make us gods who will go before us." As for this fellow Moses who brought us up out of Egypt, we don't know what has happened to him.' So I told them, 'Whoever has any gold jewelry, take it off.' Then they gave me the gold, and I threw it into the fire, and out came this calf." Moses saw that the people were running wild and that Aaron had let them get out of control and so become a laughingstock to their enemies. So he stood at the entrance to the camp and said, "Whoever is for the Lord, come to me." And all the Levites rallied to him. Now, leaders are not defined by peaceful, comfortable times. Great leaders are always defined by tumultuous, chaotic, disruptive times. It is the great contradiction of life that the greatest leaders of all time have always arisen at a time of the greatest problems and confusion. I've never personally met any creative person who was also comfortable. The most talented people I know are deeply conflicted and uncomfortable. When God is getting ready to reveal to you the purpose within you, he will often place you directly into the pandemonium to push you. In our tough text today, we have the chance to see a completely chaotic scene. Wow, this is chaotic. You get about halfway through this section and you realize this is not going to end well. There are times in your life that this same thought flashes across your mind. This is not going to end well. As a preacher, there have been times when I've been right in the middle of a sermon and this same thought flashes across my mind. This is not going well. Just end it. Just let the people go. They don't deserve to be punished like this. Just say, "Let's pray," and let them go to lunch. But I've never felt like Moses did in this passage. Moses is standing in a congregation of naked people who had torn off all their clothes and had started worshiping a golden calf in the middle of Moses' first evangelism crusade. This is not going well at all. Moses comes down off the mountain. His face is all lit up with the glory of God. He's all excited to share what God gave him, and he comes down to this. This is an absolute catastrophe. And he calls his brother Aaron and he asks, "What in the world were you thinking?" And Aaron says, "Well, you see what happened was that, we just threw the earrings into the fire and the calf just jumped right out at us." That is not what had happened at all. What had happened was that they had leaned on God to get them out of 4 centuries of slavery. A dozen generations had cried out to a God that they could barely remember. Get me out of this mess. God had answered their generational prayer. The biggest chaos here is not the chaos on the outside. The biggest chaos here is the chaos on the inside. We're dealing with 1.2 million people who don't know who they are. A society that does not know who they are might do something like define themselves by their race or skin color, or define themselves by the educational degree that they have achieved and their letters after their name. They might define themselves by the name of the sports team that they follow, the name of the designer of their clothes, or the symbol and name on the bumper of their car. When you don't know your own name, you need to connect yourself with the name of someone else's success. Moses comes down and sees all of this confusion, and he says, "Who's on the Lord's side?" There were 12 tribes surrounding Moses, and they're all trying to find their clothes. Have you seen my shirt? I'm pretty sure I dropped my boxers over here. Where'd they go? Hey, buddy, I think that's my shirt. And people are trying to cover up, embarrassed. Moses shouts, "Who's on the Lord's side?" And everyone slinks away. But the men of Levi step forward and say, "I am." You need to understand, Levi is the least likely to do this. Levi has been cursed. Levi was a con artist and a scammer and a trickster, so much that when his father Jacob was dying in bed and passing out blessings to all of his sons, he was still mad at this son. He said, "Levi and Simeon are instruments of cruelty." He was upset with them because Levi and Simeon had come against the men of Shechem. The men had assaulted their sister, so Levi devised a plan. He said he was converting them, and all the men complied by circumcising themselves. And while the men of Shechem were in a weakened state, Levi and Simeon went in and slew them all. God always despises those that take advantage of someone's weakness. Levi was cursed. And when Jacob got ready to pass out blessings, he did not bless Levi nor Simeon. Perhaps Jacob was hypersensitive to their scheming because his own name meant trickster. He was a con man himself. And his own mother had taught him to be the con that he was. This didn't start with Levi any more than the problem that you're dealing with started with you. The problem with Levi is that he was cursed by a bad decision. Isn't it wild how one bad decision can wreck the rest of your life? One dumb thing can mess up your kids and their great-grandkids. One bad decision. That was Levi's problem. He made a dumb decision and it wrecked his life and his children and his children's children. But in this moment of chaos, God sends Levi an opportunity. You get it? One thing about God, he is just, but he's also merciful. He is a God of second chances. In this mess, God says, "I'm going to give you an opportunity to correct the mistakes of your past." And because of this one good decision, Levi became the priest generationally. Today, you have made a bunch of mistakes, but have no fear. God is a God of second chances, and he wants to give you one today too.